Hi, welcome back to Faith and Conviction, and I'm your host, Ray Harris. Welcome to this week's Torah portion, which is the third portion from the books of Moses. We are going to be looking at the section Genesis chapter 12, verse 1 through chapter 17, verse 27. That's the section. But as I mentioned at the first part of this series, we're only going to look at the key words this year. And it's a very important issue that we look at this key word this time. So, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, it's Lech Lecha, which is very interesting because that's our Torah portion, and it is a two-word phrase in the Hebrew that gets translated, get yourself out, or get thee out, like T-H-E-E for the old King James. So, get out, talking to Abraham. So when we go back into chapter 11, and we're looking at this, Terah, that would be Abraham's father, had brought them down from the Ur of Chaldees, and they had landed in the area of Haran, and Abram is there for a few years, is what it says. But then in verse 1 of chapter 12, it says, the Lord said to Abram, go forth from your native land and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. So it tells him to go out. God is saying, go out from your father's house. It is this going out that we want to talk about today, because it's really interesting what sets here in this Torah. In Torah, it reads different than what we see in the English, and so we have to try to do the best we can with the English to understand it. But this Lech Lecha comes, according to Strong's, is associated with the word halech. It is the Hebrew word 1980 or 1980. So if you're doing your Strong's studies, take a look at this word. And the Brown Driver Briggs tells us that this word means to go, to walk, to depart, to proceed. But it also means figuratively to die or to live, meaning to die in a manner of life or to live in a manner of life. But it also says that we could use it to traverse or to walk about. So I find it very interesting that when we look at Genesis 17:1 in the Hebrew, this Lech Lecha is the same word repeated twice. And in Hebrew, when a word is repeated twice, it's repeated for emphasis. So when we sit down here and we look at this, I think it's fascinating that this double word, this single word that's used twice, this double emphasis, we could say, go, go, walk, walk, depart, depart. So we might translate it into English like go, depart. And if we wanted to look at it in a figurative way, what we might do is say, depart from that old life, traverse into this new life. And what is God wanting Abram to do? He's wanting him to depart from this old life with his father and traverse into a new life with he, his wife, and the family that God is going to establish. So this is very, very interesting. So Terah brought Abram to a specific location. And in doing that, Terah was able to complete his mission. But Abram had not yet fulfilled his own mission that God had ordained for him. So as I was praying about this, I'm thinking, how does this fit with the Messiah? What is it that is connecting these two things? Because we know Moses, the teachings of Moses and the teachings of the Messiah have to coincide. So I was asking for some help with this in my prayer, and I had the words, went forth, come to mind. Now that's a King James phraseology, but I think this is very important. And when you look at the New Testament, you can see this concept of went forth many times. Now the specific one we want to look at today is John chapter 19, beginning of verse 16. Now I'm going to read what we need here. And they took Jesus, and they led him away. And he, bearing his cross, went forth into a place called the place of a skull, which in the Hebrew, Golgotha, where they crucified him. Now what is interesting about this moment is our Messiah is definitely going from one moment to another. Now, of course, he had the moment where he went from heaven to a lady's womb, that lady being Mary. And he had his moments where he was on the Mount of Transfiguration. But this is a very specific moment. And without this moment, we don't have the hope that we as disciples of the Messiah have. So he went walking into death, willing to have new life. So while it's written as they crucified him, it also says that Jesus laid down his life. He permitted them to do what he did, what they did. So we can really think of this just the same way that Abram did. Jesus departed from his old life, that being in his tabernacle, traversing into his new life, to want to ascend with the Father. Now this is very fascinating, how we can have, all the way back in Moses, talking about Abram, go, to depart and traverse in, depart from the old life, traverse into the new life. And we see it with the Messiah. These are the good things. These are the hopeful things. These are the things that connect us. The teachings of Moses and the teachings of Messiah. I hope today these things have been insightful to the power of Moses and the power of the Messiah. Until next time, continue to seek God, know Messiah, find hope.